The black car pulled up slowly in front of the restaurant. Min-jun stepped out first and walked around to open the door for his wife. Seo-yeon took his hand and smiled as she got out of the car. She smoothed down her dress with her free hand. The dress was simple and blue. She had bought it 3 weeks ago from a regular store at the shopping mall. It was nice but not expensive. She wore small pearl earrings that Min-jun had given her on their first anniversary many years ago. Min-jun looked at his wife and thought she was beautiful. He always thought she was beautiful. It did not matter to him what she wore. Tonight was special. It was their 25th wedding anniversary. 25 years together, 25 years of love and partnership. He wanted to take her somewhere nice to celebrate. They stood together on the sidewalk and looked up at the building. Le Chateau Blanc. The name was written in elegant gold letters above the entrance. The restaurant was famous in Seoul. Everyone knew about it. Only wealthy people usually came here. The prices were very high. The food was supposed to be the best in the city. Min-jun had called 5 weeks ago to make a reservation. Even with his connections, it was not easy to get a table. Seo-yeon felt a little nervous. She looked down at her dress again. She hoped it was nice enough for this place. She carried a small handbag. It was black and simple. She had owned it for 3 years. It showed some wear on the corners. She thought about the other women who probably came to this restaurant. They probably carried expensive designer bags. They probably wore jewelry that cost more than a car. Min-jun noticed her looking at her bag. He gently took her hand. "You look perfect," he said softly. "You always look perfect to me." She smiled at him. "You always know what to say." They walked toward the entrance. A doorman in a crisp uniform stood by the door. He opened it for them with a slight bow. "Good evening," he said politely. "Welcome to Le Chateau Blanc." They entered the restaurant and stopped for a moment. The inside was stunning. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling. Each one sparkled with hundreds of tiny lights. The floors were made of white and gray marble. They were so clean and shiny that Seo-yeon could almost see her reflection in them. White tablecloths covered every table. Fresh flowers sat in crystal vases. Soft classical music played in the background. Everything looked expensive and perfect. Other diners sat at various tables throughout the restaurant. Men wore dark suits and expensive watches. Women wore designer dresses and sparkled with diamonds. Everyone looked like they belonged in a magazine. Seo-yeon suddenly felt very plain. She touched her pearl earrings without thinking. They were real pearls, but they were small and simple, nothing like the jewelry she saw on the other women. A man in a black suit approached them. He had gray hair and a kind face. This was the maître d'. He smiled warmly at them. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Min-jun said. "Under the name Kim Min-jun. For 7:30. The maître d' checked his book. "Ah yes, Mr. Kim. We have been expecting you. Please follow me." He picked up 2 leather-bound menus and began walking. Min-jun and Seo-yeon followed him through the restaurant. They walked past several tables. Seo-yeon noticed people glancing at them. Some looked curious. Others looked back down at their food quickly. She felt like everyone was watching her simple dress and old handbag. She told herself she was being silly. Nobody was really paying attention to her. But she could not shake the feeling. The maître d' led them to a table near the window. It was a good table with a nice view of the city lights outside. He pulled out a chair for Seo-yeon. She sat down carefully. Min-jun sat across from her. The maître d' placed the menus in front of them. "Your waiter will be with you shortly," he said with another smile. Then he walked away. Seo-yeon looked around again. The table next to them was empty. On the other side, an older couple ate quietly. The man wore a suit that probably cost more than Seo-yeon made in a month when she was still teaching. The woman had a diamond necklace that caught the light every time she moved. Seo-yeon looked away quickly. Min-jun reached across the table and took her hand. "Are you happy?" he asked. She looked at his face, his kind eyes, his gentle smile, the face she had loved for 25 years. "I am always happy when I am with you," she said. And she meant it. The fancy restaurant did not matter. The expensive clothes did not matter. Being with him was what mattered. "Do you remember our first anniversary?" Min-jun asked. His eyes looked distant, remembering. Seo-yeon laughed softly. "Of course I remember. We had no money. We ate instant noodles in our tiny apartment. You felt so bad about it. I promised you that one day I would take you to the nicest restaurants, Minjun said. I promised you a better life. You gave me a wonderful life, Seoyeon said firmly. Even when we had nothing, I was happy. You worked so hard. I worked too. We were a team. We still are. Minjun squeezed her hand. You never complained, not once. You worked 2 jobs to help me start my business. You believed in me when I had nothing but dreams. You are the reason for everything I have achieved. Seoyeon felt tears forming in her eyes. Stop that. You will make me cry. I do not want to cry in this fancy restaurant. They both laughed quietly. Minjun opened his menu. Seoyeon opened hers too. The menu was thick and heavy. The pages were cream-colored and smooth. Everything was written in both Korean and French. The descriptions of the food were long and complicated. Words like reduction and emulsion and confit appeared everywhere. Seoyeon did not understand half of the descriptions. She looked at the prices and her eyes widened slightly. One appetizer cost as much as she used to spend on groceries for a whole week. She glanced up at Minjun. He was reading his menu calmly. He did not seem bothered by the prices at all. Of course he was not bothered. He could afford it now. After years of hard work and sacrifice, his business had become very successful. But Seoyeon still remembered the struggling years. She still remembered counting coins to buy rice. Those memories never left her. They kept her grounded. They reminded her of what was truly important. A movement caught her eye. A waiter was approaching their table. He was tall and thin. He had dark hair slicked back with too much gel. He wore the black uniform of the restaurant staff. But something about the way he walked seemed arrogant. His chin was lifted just a bit too high. His eyes scanned the restaurant like he was judging everyone in it. This was Philippe. He had worked at Le Chateau Blanc for 7 years. He took pride in serving only appropriate customers. He believed he could tell everything about a person by looking at them. By their clothes, by their accessories, by the way they carried themselves. And he had already decided something about the couple at table 7. Philippe had watched them walk in. He had seen the woman's simple dress, her worn handbag, her plain jewelry. He had made his judgment immediately. These people did not belong here. They were probably trying to impress someone, or maybe they had saved for months for this one meal. Either way, they were not the type of customers he liked to serve. Not like the wealthy regulars who came every week. Not like the business executives and celebrities. These were ordinary people pretending to be something they were not. He reached their table and stood there for a moment. He did not smile. He did not greet them warmly like he did with his favorite customers. He simply stood there with the menus tucked under his arm, looking at them with barely hidden contempt. Seoyeon looked up at him and smiled politely. She did not notice the coldness in his eyes yet. She was just a kind woman ready to order dinner with her husband. She had no idea what was about to happen. She had no idea that this man's rudeness would change everything, not just for her evening but for his entire future. Philippe placed the menus on the table. He set one in front of Minjun carefully. Then he almost dropped the other one in front of Seoyeon. It was not quite throwing it down, but it was close. Seoyeon noticed. She felt a small worry begin in her stomach. But she told herself maybe he was just having a bad day. Everyone has bad days. Good evening, Philippe said. He looked only at Minjun. He did not even glance at Seoyeon. It was like she was not sitting there at all. May I tell you about our specials tonight? Yes, please, Minjun said. He was watching the waiter carefully now. He had noticed the way Philippe dropped the menu in front of his wife. He had noticed the disrespect. Philippe began describing the specials. His voice was flat and bored. He spoke quickly as if he wanted to get this over with. Tonight we have sea bass with champagne butter sauce. We have duck breast with cherry reduction. We have lobster tail with saffron risotto. He rattled off the dishes without any enthusiasm. When he finished, he looked at Minjun. Do you need time to decide? Seoyeon looked at her menu. She was trying to understand all the descriptions. Some of the dishes sounded interesting. She wanted to ask about one of them. She raised her hand slightly to get Philippe's attention. Excuse me, she said politely. Her English had a Korean accent. She had learned English as an adult and she was not fully confident with it. Can you tell me about this dish? The one with the lamb? Philippe finally looked at her. But his look was not kind. His eyes traveled slowly from her face down to her simple dress. then to her old handbag sitting on the chair beside her, then back to her face. His lip curled slightly. It was a tiny movement, but Seo-yeon saw it. Her heart began beating faster. "The lamb," Philippe said slowly, like he was speaking to a child. "It is braised lamb shank with truffle potato puree and roasted root vegetables. It is one of our more expensive dishes." He emphasized the word expensive. He looked at her dress again. It cost 75,000 won. Seo-yeon felt her face grow warm. She understood what he was doing. He was suggesting she could not afford it. She looked down at the menu, embarrassed. She could feel other diners at nearby tables starting to notice the interaction. Min-jun's jaw tightened. He started to say something, but Philippe continued talking. The waiter leaned down slightly as if he was about to share a secret. But his voice was loud enough for people nearby to hear. "Perhaps I can make a suggestion," Philippe said. "This restaurant might be more than you expected. The prices here are quite substantial. There are other restaurants in the area that might be better suited to your budget, more comfortable for someone like you." The last 3 words hung in the air. Someone like you. Seo-yeon felt like she had been slapped. Her face burned with shame. She could see a couple at the next table watching. The woman whispered something to the man she was with. They both looked at Seo-yeon. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to melt into the floor. Someone like her? Min-jun's voice was quiet. But there was something dangerous in it. Something cold. His eyes fixed on Philippe like a laser. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Philippe straightened up. He realized he might have gone too far, but his pride would not let him back down. "I simply mean that Le Chateau Blanc caters to a certain clientele, sir. I am trying to save you both from embarrassment when the bill arrives. It is quite high. Most people do not realize how expensive dining here can be." "I see," Min-jun said. His voice was still very quiet. "And you determined that my wife cannot afford to eat here by looking at her for 30 seconds? Philippe shifted uncomfortably. "I have worked in high-end restaurants for many years, sir. I can generally tell." "You can tell nothing," Min-jun interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it cut like a knife. "You have insulted my wife based on her appearance. You have made assumptions about her worth as a person, because she does not wear expensive jewelry. You should be ashamed of yourself." People at several tables were watching now. The soft classical music continued playing. The chandeliers continued sparkling. But a drama was unfolding at table 7. Other diners pretended to look at their food, but their ears were listening to every word. Philippe's face turned red. He was angry now. How dare this customer speak to him this way? He was Philippe. He worked at Le Chateau Blanc. He served movie stars and business tycoons. He did not need to take this from some man in an ordinary suit and his plain-looking wife. "Sir," Philippe said, his voice tight with anger, "if you have an issue with my service, you are welcome to speak to the manager. However, I stand by my assessment. This restaurant has standards. Perhaps you would both be more comfortable elsewhere." Seo-yeon touched Min-jun's arm gently. She could feel the tension in his muscles. She knew he was furious. She had seen him angry before, but rarely. Min-jun was usually calm and controlled. But when someone threatened or hurt his family, a different side of him appeared. A fierce, protective side. "Min-jun," she said softly, "it is okay. Let us just leave. We can go somewhere else." Min-jun looked at his wife. He saw the hurt in her eyes. He saw the embarrassment on her face. This woman who had stood by him through everything, who had worked herself to exhaustion to help him succeed, who had never asked for anything except his love. And this arrogant waiter had made her feel small, had made her feel unworthy. Something inside Min-jun went cold and hard. "No," he said gently to his wife, "we are not leaving. We have a reservation. This is our anniversary. We have every right to eat here." He looked back at Philippe. "We will order when we are ready. You may go now." Philippe stared at him for a moment. Other waiters had noticed the confrontation. They stood at the edges of the dining room watching. One young server looked worried. Another older waiter smirked. He had heard Philippe make rude comments before about customers he thought were beneath him. It was about time someone stood up to him. Philippe turned and walked away stiffly. His face was red. He walked to the back of the restaurant where the servers gathered between tables. Another waiter named Jean-Claude stood there polishing wine glasses. "Problems?" Jean-Claude asked. Philippe made a dismissive gesture toward table 7. People who do not belong in places like this, he said loudly, loud enough that his voice carried slightly into the dining room. Look at her. That dress probably came from a discount store. That handbag is 3 years old at least. And she asks about the lamb like she can afford it, please. They probably saved for months just to eat here once. I was trying to save them the embarrassment of not being able to pay. Jean-Claude glanced toward table 7. He saw the couple sitting there. The woman looked upset. The man was taking his phone from his pocket. Maybe you should be more careful, Philippe. You do not know who people are, Philippe laughed. I know exactly who they are. I have been doing this for 7 years. I can spot people who do not belong. Trust me. He adjusted his uniform. Watch. They will probably order the cheapest thing on the menu and share it. At table 7, Minjun was indeed on his phone, but he was not looking at the menu. He had opened his contacts. He scrolled through a long list of names. These were business associates, partners, executives, people who owed him favors, people who respected him, people who knew exactly who Kim Minjun was and what he was capable of. Seo-yeon watched her husband. She knew that look on his face. It was his business face, the face he wore when he was solving a problem, when he was making a decision. What are you doing? She asked quietly. Making a phone call, he said. I will be right back. I need to step outside for a moment. Minjun, please. It is not worth it. Let us just order and eat and forget about that rude man. Minjun reached across the table and took both of her hands in his. He looked into her eyes. You are worth it, he said firmly. You are worth everything. You have never judged anyone by their appearance. You have never made anyone feel less than. You are kind and good and you deserve respect. What that waiter did was wrong. I cannot let it go. Not this time. He stood up and walked toward the entrance of the restaurant. As Seo-yeon watched him go, she felt confused and worried. She hoped he was not going to make a scene. That was not like him. Minjun was powerful and successful now, but he had never used his power to hurt people. He was fair and honest in business. He treated everyone with respect, from the janitor to the CEO. She trusted him. She always trusted him. Minjun stepped outside into the cool night air. The doorman stood nearby but gave him privacy. Minjun dialed a number. It rang twice before someone answered. Mr. Kim? The voice on the other end was surprised. Good evening, sir. I did not expect to hear from you tonight. Good evening, Jiwoo, Minjun said. Jiwoo Park was his corporate attorney and one of his most trusted advisors. I need you to do something for me. Right now. It is urgent. Of course, sir. What do you need? I need you to find out who owns Le Chateau Blanc restaurant. I need the owner's contact information, and I need you to prepare a purchase offer. A good offer. One they cannot refuse. I want to buy this restaurant. Tonight. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Jiwoo spoke carefully. May I ask what happened, sir? Minjun's voice was cold. Someone insulted my wife. Someone made her feel small and unworthy because of how she was dressed. I will not let that stand. I understand, sir. Give me 15 minutes. I will call you back. Minjun ended the call and took a deep breath. He stood there for a moment looking at the gold letters above the restaurant entrance. Le Chateau Blanc. Soon, very soon, those letters would belong to him. And the first order of business would be dealing with an arrogant waiter who had forgotten the most basic principle of hospitality, that every person deserves respect, that you cannot judge someone's worth by their appearance, that sometimes the people who look most ordinary are actually the most extraordinary. He walked back inside, back to his wife, back to their anniversary dinner. Philippe was still at the back of the restaurant, laughing with Jean-Claude about something. He did not know that his entire world was about to change. He did not know that the woman in the simple blue dress was married to one of the most powerful men in Seoul. He did not know that his moment of cruelty was going to cost him everything. The phone in Minjun's pocket buzzed. It was a text message from Jiwoo. Just 3 words. Found the owner. Minjun returned to the table and sat down across from his wife. Seo-yeon looked at him with worried eyes. Is everything okay? She asked. Everything will be fine, he said. He gave her a reassuring smile. Let us order. I am hungry. Are you? She nodded slowly. She was not really hungry anymore. The confrontation with the waiter had upset her stomach, but she did not want to ruin their anniversary. Minjun had planned this evening. He had been looking forward to it. She would not let one rude person spoil it for him. A different waiter approached their table. This one was younger, probably in his 20s. He had a kind face and nervous eyes. His name tag said Minho. He bowed slightly. "Good evening. My name is Minho. I will be serving you this evening. I apologize for any inconvenience earlier." His voice was sincere. He had witnessed what happened with Philippe. He felt embarrassed for his colleague. "Thank you, Minho," Minjun said. His voice was warm now. No trace of the coldness that had been there before. "We are ready to order." Seoyeon ordered the salmon. Minjun ordered the lamb that Seoyeon had originally asked about. He made sure to order it loudly enough that Philippe could hear from across the room. The expensive lamb, the one Philippe had suggested they could not afford. Minho wrote down their orders carefully. He recommended a wine to go with their meals. Then he bowed again and walked toward the kitchen. As Minho passed Philippe, the older waiter grabbed his arm. "Why are you serving table 7? "That is my section." Minho pulled his arm away. The manager reassigned it. "You should ask him why." Minho did not like Philippe. None of the younger staff did. Philippe was always making comments about customers, always acting superior, always trying to decide who was worthy and who was not. Philippe's face darkened, but he said nothing. He went back to serving his other tables, but he kept glancing toward table 7. He saw the couple talking quietly. The woman was smiling now. The man reached across and took her hand. They looked happy. It irritated Philippe. He did not like being proven wrong. He was certain they would order the cheapest items. But they had ordered expensive dishes. Maybe they were planning to complain later and try to get the bill reduced. He had seen that trick before. At table 7, Minjun's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. Another text from Jiwoo. "Owner is Madame Isabelle Dupont. Widow, age 67, owns the restaurant for 15 years. Wants to retire but has not found the right buyer. I have her private number. Ready to make contact when you say?" Minjun typed back quickly. "Wait for my call. We'll contact you soon." Seoyeon noticed him texting. "Work?" she asked. "Something like that," he said. He put the phone away. "But tonight is about us. About celebrating 25 years together." She smiled at him, the real smile that he loved. The smile that made her eyes crinkle at the corners. 25 years, she repeated. "It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time. Do you remember our wedding?" Minjun asked. "It rained that day." "It poured," Seoyeon laughed. "My dress got soaked. The flowers wilted. Half the guests could not make it because of the storm." "But you still looked beautiful," Minjun said, standing there in that little church, soaking wet, still smiling. "I knew I was the luckiest man alive. We had nothing back then," Seoyeon said softly. "But we had each other. That was enough." Minho returned with a basket of fresh bread and small dishes of olive oil and butter. He set them on the table carefully. "Your wine will be here shortly," he said. "And your appetizers." "Thank you," they both said together. Across the restaurant in a private dining room, Madame Isabelle Dupont sat with 3 business associates. They were discussing a contract for importing French cheese. Madame Dupont was elegant and sharp. She wore a black dress that was simple but clearly expensive. Her gray hair was pulled back in a perfect twist. She had owned Le Chateau Blanc for 15 years. She had built it from a good restaurant into a great one, but she was tired now. She was getting older. She wanted to travel. She wanted to spend time with her grandchildren in Paris. She had been quietly looking for the right buyer for months. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was an unknown number. She usually did not answer unknown numbers, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Madame Dupont?" A man's voice, professional, polite. "My name is Park Ji-woo. I am a corporate attorney representing Hansong Corporation. We have a business proposition for you regarding Le Chateau Blanc." Madame Dupont sat up straighter. Hansong Corporation. Everyone in Seoul knew that name. One of the largest companies in the country. Real estate, hotels, restaurants. "I am listening," she said carefully. "My client, Mr. Kim Min-jun, CEO of Hansong Corporation, is interested in purchasing your restaurant. He is prepared to make a very generous offer. He would like to meet with you this evening if possible. He is currently dining at your establishment." Madame Dupont's mind raced. Kim Min-jun, she knew that name too. He was famous in business circles. Young for a CEO, brilliant, ruthless when necessary but fair, his company owned some of the best hotels and restaurants in Asia. If he wanted to buy Le Chateau Blanc, this could be the opportunity she had been waiting for. This evening? She repeated. That is quite sudden. Yes, madame, Mr. Kim values efficiency. When he sees something he wants, he acts quickly. But I assure you this offer will be worth your time. Madame Dupont looked at her associates. Gentlemen, please excuse me. Something urgent has come up. We will continue this meeting tomorrow. They nodded and gathered their papers. Within moments, they had left the private dining room. Madame Dupont stood and smoothed her dress. She called her restaurant manager. Andre, please come to the private dining room immediately and find out which table Mr. Kim Min-jun is seated at. Andre, the manager, was confused. Mr. Kim Min-jun? The CEO, is he here? Apparently so, find him. And be discreet. Andre hurried out into the main dining room. He scanned the tables. He knew many of the regular customers. Business executives, politicians, celebrities. But which one was Kim Min-jun? He pulled out his phone and quickly searched for images. There. He found a photo from a business magazine. A man in his early 50s. Strong features, serious expression. Andre looked around the dining room again. His eyes stopped at table 7. There, the man who had the confrontation with Philippe earlier. That was Kim Min-jun. Andre felt his heart sink. Philippe had insulted the wife of one of the most powerful men in Seoul. This was bad. This was very bad. He walked quickly back to the private dining room. Madame Dupont was on the phone. She was speaking in French, but Andre could tell she was excited. When she ended the call, she looked at him. Did you find him? Yes, madame. Table 7. Andre hesitated. Madame, there was an incident earlier. Philippe, one of our senior waiters, was rude to the woman at that table. I did not realize who they were. I reassigned the table to Min-ho. Madame Dupont's eyes narrowed. Rude? How rude? Andre explained what he had witnessed. The dropped menu. The condescending tone. The suggestion that they could not afford to eat at the restaurant. As he spoke, Madame Dupont's face grew cold. Get Philippe. Bring him to my office now. Her voice was ice. Yes, madame. Andre hurried out. He found Philippe standing near the kitchen, still watching table 7 with a sour expression. Philippe, Madame Dupont wants to see you in her office immediately. Philippe looked surprised. Now why? Just go, now. Philippe shrugged and walked toward the office. He was not worried. He had worked here for 7 years. Madame Dupont valued him. He was good at his job. If there was a complaint about him, he would explain. The woman at table 7 was clearly out of her depth. He had been trying to help them, really. Trying to save them embarrassment. He knocked on the office door. Come in, Madame Dupont's voice called. Philippe entered. Madame Dupont sat behind her desk. Her lawyer stood beside her. A laptop was open on the desk. Philippe noticed that it showed the restaurant's security camera footage. His stomach tightened slightly. Sit down, Philippe, Madame Dupont said. He sat. Is something wrong, madame? Yes, Philippe. Something is very wrong. She turned the laptop toward him. Watch. The footage played. Philippe watched himself approach table 7. He watched himself drop the menu in front of the woman. He heard his own voice making condescending comments, suggesting they could not afford to eat there, telling them to go somewhere else. Watching it now, seeing it from the camera's perspective, Philippe realized how terrible it looked. How cruel. I was just, he began. You were just what? Insulting a customer? Judging them by their appearance? Making them feel unwelcome in my restaurant? Madame Dupont's voice was sharp. Do you know who that woman is, Philippe? No, madame. That is Choi Seo-yeon. She is married to Kim Min-jun, the CEO of Hanseong Corporation, one of the richest and most powerful men in this country, and you insulted his wife because she was wearing a simple dress and carrying an old handbag. Philippe felt the blood drain from his face. Kim Min-jun, Hanseong Corporation, oh no. Oh no. Mr. Kim has offered to buy this restaurant, Madame Dupont continued. It is an excellent offer. More than fair. More than I had hoped for. But he has one condition. One non-negotiable condition. She leaned forward. You must be terminated immediately with cause. No reference. No severance. Those are his terms. Philippe's world tilted. Madame, please. I made a mistake. I did not know. You should not need to know who someone is to treat them with respect, Madame Dupont said coldly. Every customer who walks through that door deserves dignity. That is the foundation of hospitality. You forgot that, or perhaps you never learned it. Philippe's mind raced. He needed this job. He had bills to pay, a reputation to maintain. Madam, I will apologize. I will make it right, please. Madame Dupont stood. It is too late for that. I am accepting Mr. Kim's offer. This restaurant has been my life for 15 years, but it is time for me to move on. And part of moving on is cleaning out the problems. You are a problem, Philippe. You have been for some time. I have ignored complaints before. I have overlooked your attitude. Not anymore. She opened a folder on her desk. This is your termination letter. Effective immediately. You will collect your personal belongings and leave through the back entrance. Security will escort you out. Philippe sat frozen. This could not be happening. Not over one small mistake. Not over one plain woman in a cheap dress. But it was happening. And deep down, Philippe knew it was not really about one mistake. It was about 7 years of judgment. 7 years of deciding who was worthy and who was not. 7 years of treating people like they were less than because they did not meet his standards. It had all caught up with him. And the price was everything. Philippe stood slowly from the chair. His legs felt weak. His hands trembled slightly. He had worked at Le Chateau Blanc for 7 years. 7 years of building relationships with wealthy customers. 7 years of perfecting his craft. 7 years of being proud to work at one of Seoul's finest restaurants. And now it was over. Just like that. Because he had judged one woman by her appearance, Madame. He tried one more time. His voice cracked. And please, give me another chance. I will apologize to them. I will do anything. Madame Dupont's expression did not change. The decision is made. Security is waiting outside. Please go with them. The door opened. 2 security guards in dark suits stepped inside. They were not aggressive, but their presence was clear. Philippe had to leave. He looked at Madame Dupont one last time, hoping to see some softness in her face, some chance for mercy. But her face was like stone. He walked out of the office. The security guards followed him. They went to the staff locker room. Philippe opened his locker with shaking hands. He took out his jacket, his phone, a few personal items. Other staff members stopped what they were doing and watched. Word had already spread. Philippe was being fired. The great Philippe who acted like he owned the place. The Philippe who looked down on everyone. He was being escorted out like a criminal. Minho stood near the wall. He watched Philippe pack his things. Part of him felt bad. No one should lose their job. But another part of him remembered all the times Philippe had been cruel to customers. All the times he had mocked people who did not meet his standards. Maybe this was justice. Philippe finished gathering his things. The security guards led him toward the back exit. As they walked through the kitchen, the cook stopped their work. Everyone stared. Philippe kept his eyes down. His face was red with shame and anger. This was humiliating. He had never been so humiliated in his life. They reached the back door. One guard opened it. Cold night air rushed in. Philippe stepped outside into the alley behind the restaurant. The door closed behind him with a final heavy sound. He stood alone in the alley. Garbage bins lined one wall. The smell of old food hung in the air. This was how it ended. Not through the front door where he had walked proudly for 7 years. But out the back like trash, he pulled out his phone. His hands were still shaking. He needed to call someone, tell someone what happened, but who? His friends were all colleagues in the restaurant industry. Word would spread fast. Everyone would know he was fired for insulting a customer, for insulting the wife of Kim Min-jun. His reputation was destroyed. Philippe walked slowly down the alley toward the street. His mind kept replaying the moment. The woman in the blue dress. Her kind face. Her polite question about the lamb. Why had he been so cruel? Why did he assume she did not belong? He had seen her simple clothes and old handbag and made a judgment. He had decided she was beneath him, beneath the restaurant. He had been wrong. So terribly wrong. Back inside the restaurant, Minho brought the appetizers to table 7. Small plates of beautifully arranged food, delicate and perfect. Seoyeon's salmon appetizer looked like art on the plate. Min-jun's soup was served in a white bowl with a swirl of cream on top. This looks wonderful, Seoyeon said. She picked up her fork. The earlier incident with Philippe had upset her, but she was trying to enjoy the evening. Min-jun was being so sweet. He kept smiling at her, holding her hand, telling her stories about their early years together. They ate their appetizers slowly. The food was delicious. Everything people said about Le Chateau Blanc was true. The flavors were perfect. Each bite was an experience. Seo-yeon began to relax. She took a sip of wine. It was smooth and rich. She did not know much about wine, but she knew this was good. Min-jun watched his wife enjoy the food. This made him happy. She deserved nice things. She deserved to be treated with respect and dignity. That waiter Philippe had tried to make her feel small, tried to make her feel unworthy. But Min-jun would not let that stand. He had made a decision. He was going to buy this restaurant, and he was going to make sure something like this never happened again. His phone buzzed. A text from Jiwoo. Madame Dupont has agreed to meet. She will come to your table in 5 minutes. The waiter has been terminated as you requested. She is very interested in your offer. Min-jun put the phone away. He looked at Seo-yeon. Something is about to happen. Please do not be upset with me. Seo-yeon paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. What did you do? What needed to be done? Before Seo-yeon could respond, she saw an elegant older woman walking toward their table. The woman was dressed in black. She had gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She moved with grace and confidence. This was clearly someone important. Madame Dupont reached their table. She smiled warmly. Mr. Kim? Mrs. Kim? I am Isabelle Dupont, the owner of Le Chateau Blanc. May I join you for a moment? Min-jun stood and pulled out a chair for her. Of course. Please sit. Madame Dupont sat down. She looked at Seo-yeon with kind eyes. Mrs. Kim, I must apologize for the terrible experience you had this evening. The behavior of our waiter was inexcusable. He has been terminated. I want you to know that his actions do not represent the values of this restaurant. Seo-yeon looked surprised. Terminated? That seems very severe. I mean, he was rude, but Mrs. Kim, Madame Dupont interrupted gently. What he did was more than rude. He judged you unfairly. He made you feel unwelcome in a place where everyone should feel welcome. That goes against everything I believe about hospitality. I will not tolerate it. Seo-yeon did not know what to say. She glanced at Min-jun. He was watching the owner calmly. Madame Dupont turned to Min-jun. Your attorney contacted me about purchasing the restaurant. I am very interested in discussing this. Here? Seo-yeon said. Now? At dinner? Min-jun took her hand. I am sorry. I know this is not how I wanted our anniversary dinner to go. But when that waiter insulted you, I decided to take action. I contacted my attorney. I asked him to find out who owned this restaurant and make an offer to purchase it. Seo-yeon stared at him. You are buying the restaurant? The whole restaurant? If Madame Dupont agrees to my terms, yes. As Seo-yeon felt dizzy. This was too much, too fast. Min-jun, you do not need to buy an entire restaurant because one waiter was rude to me. It is not just about one waiter, Min-jun said firmly. It is about principles. It is about making sure places like this treat every person with respect. Rich or poor, famous or unknown, everyone deserves dignity. Madame Dupont nodded. I agree completely. That is why I'm interested in your offer, Mr. Kim. I've been wanting to retire for some time. I have been looking for the right buyer, someone who will maintain the quality of this restaurant, but also bring in new values, new perspectives. I think you might be that person. I want to keep you on as general manager, Min-jun said. If you are willing. You know this business. You built this place. I need your expertise, but I want to make changes too. Training for all staff about treating customers with respect, clear policies against discrimination of any kind, and a scholarship fund. A scholarship fund? Madame Dupont looked interested. Yes. For students from poor families who want to study hospitality. My wife suggested it. He squeezed Seo-yeon's hand. She believes everyone should have opportunities regardless of their background. I agree. Seo-yeon felt tears in her eyes. I just mentioned it in the car on the way here. I did not think you were serious. I am always serious when you share your ideas, Min-jun said softly. You have a good heart. You see what needs to be fixed in the world. That waiter tonight judged you because you came from humble beginnings. Because you do not show off wealth, but that is exactly what makes you special. You never forgot where we came from. You never looked down on anyone. You treat everyone the same, whether they are a janitor or a CEO. That is who you are, and that is what this restaurant needs to learn. Other diners were watching now. They could see the conversation at table 7. The owner sitting with the couple. The woman with tears in her eyes. The man holding her hand. People whispered to each other. Something important was happening. Madame Dupont felt moved by what she was seeing. This was not just a business deal. This was a man protecting his wife. A man standing up for what was right. She liked him. She trusted him. Your offer is very generous, Mr. Kim. More than fair. I am prepared to accept it. With the condition about the waiter, Minjun asked. Yes, he has already been terminated. I should have done it long ago. There have been other complaints. Other incidents. I ignored them. That was my mistake. Not anymore, Minjun nodded. Then we have a deal. He looked at Jiwoo's number on his phone. I will have my attorney contact you tomorrow morning. We can finalize everything within the week. So fast? Madame Dupont smiled. You are a man of action. When something matters, I do not wait. Madame Dupont stood. She reached out and touched Seo-yeon's shoulder gently. Mrs. Kim, your meal tonight is complimentary. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope you will come back many times. This will soon be your husband's restaurant. You should feel at home here. Thank you, Seo-yeon managed to say. She was still processing everything. Madame Dupont walked away. The other diners watched her go. Then they looked back at table 7, at the couple who had just bought the restaurant. Some people looked impressed. Others looked shocked. A few looked embarrassed, wondering if they had ever judged someone unfairly based on appearance. Minho approached with their main courses. He set the plates down carefully. The lamb looked incredible, perfectly cooked, surrounded by colorful vegetables. The salmon was beautiful too, pink and flaky. Enjoy your meal, Minho said. Then he added quietly, thank you. For what you did, Philippe treated a lot of people badly. Not just customers, staff too. We are all glad he is gone. Minjun looked at the young waiter. What is your name? Minho, sir. How long have you worked here, Minho? 2 years, sir. Do you like it here? I love it, sir. I want to be a chef someday. I am learning a lot, Minjun nodded. Good, keep learning. Keep working hard. And remember to treat every person with respect, no matter who they are or what they look like. Can you do that? Yes, sir. I promise. Then you will do well in life. Minho bowed and walked away. Seo-yeon looked at her husband. You really did all this for me? I would do anything for you, Minjun said simply. You are my partner, my best friend, the love of my life. That waiter tried to diminish you. I could not let that happen. Not tonight, not ever. They ate their dinner slowly. The food was delicious. The wine was perfect. Outside the window, the city lights sparkled. Inside the restaurant, soft music played. And at table 7, a couple celebrated their 25th anniversary. Not just with a meal, but with a reminder of why they loved each other, why they had stayed together through good times and bad, because they stood up for each other. They protected each other. They respected each other. Always. 2 weeks passed quickly. The sale of Le Chateau Blanc was finalized on a Wednesday morning. Minjun sat in his office at Hanseong Corporation headquarters. Across from him sat Madame Dupont and her lawyer. Jiwoo sat beside Minjun with stacks of papers. The contract had been reviewed carefully. Everything was in order. Are you certain you want to stay on as general manager? Minjun asked Madame Dupont. I know you wanted to retire. Madame Dupont smiled. I wanted to retire from the stress of ownership. The financial burden, the constant worry, but I still love the restaurant. I love the work. If you are willing to have me, I would be honored to stay and help you implement your vision. Good, Minjun said, because I need your experience. I know business. I know real estate. But you know French cuisine. You know how to run a fine dining establishment. Together we can make Le Chateau Blanc even better. They signed the papers, one page after another. The lawyer notarized each signature. When it was done, Minjun owned the restaurant. Madame Dupont accepted a check for an amount that would let her live very comfortably for the rest of her life. She could travel, spend time with family, and still work part-time doing what she loved. When do you want to make the changes? Madame Dupont asked. Immediately, Minjun said. I want to meet with all the staff tomorrow morning, before the restaurant opens. Can you arrange that? Of course. I will send a message to everyone today. The next morning, the entire staff of Le Chateau Blanc gathered in the main dining room. Waiters, cooks, dishwashers, hosts, bartenders, everyone. They stood nervously, wondering what the new owner would say. Rumors had been flying for 2 weeks. Philippe had been fired. The restaurant had been sold. Everything was changing. Minjun stood at the front of the room. He wore a business suit but had removed his jacket. He wanted to seem approachable. Beside him stood Madame Dupont. And beside her, to the surprise of many staff members, stood Seo-yeon. She wore a simple dress again. Not the blue one from the anniversary dinner, but another modest one. She looked nervous but determined. "Good morning," Minjun said. His voice was clear and strong. "My name is Kim Minjun. I am the new owner of Le Chateau Blanc. This is my wife, Choi Seo-yeon. And I think many of you know Madame Dupont, who will continue as general manager." The staff murmured. They looked at Seo-yeon. Some recognized her from 2 weeks ago. The woman Philippe had insulted. The woman who had sparked everything that followed. "I want to tell you why I bought this restaurant," Minjun continued. "It was not a planned business decision. It was personal. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I came here to celebrate our anniversary. One of your former colleagues, Philippe, treated my wife with disrespect. He judged her based on her appearance. He suggested she did not belong in this establishment because she was not wearing expensive clothes or jewelry. The staff shifted uncomfortably. Some had witnessed the incident. Others had heard about it. That moment showed me something," Minjun said. "It showed me that even in the finest restaurants, there can be a failure of basic human decency. Hospitality is not just about good food and nice decor. It is about making every person feel welcome and valued. Every person, not just the ones who look wealthy. Not just the famous ones, everyone." He paused and looked around the room. "I come from a poor family. My wife comes from a poor family. 30 years ago, we could not afford to eat at a place like this. We ate cheap food. We worked multiple jobs. We struggled. But we were still human beings deserving of respect. That never changed whether we had money or not." Seo-yeon stepped forward. Her voice was softer than her husband's, but just as clear. "I am not upset about what happened 2 weeks ago. Not anymore. That waiter did not know me. He saw my simple dress and old handbag and made assumptions. That was his mistake. But I think this is a teaching moment for all of us. We all make judgments sometimes. We all look at people and decide things about them without knowing their story. I have done it too. We all have." The staff listened carefully. This was not what they expected. They thought the new owner would be angry, harsh, but instead he and his wife were being understanding. Almost kind. "I want to make some changes here," Minjun said. "First, all staff will go through new training. Training on treating customers with respect. Training on recognizing our own biases. This training will happen once a month, every month. It will be paid time. You will learn and grow together." Several staff members nodded. This seemed reasonable. "Second," Minjun continued, "we are establishing a strict policy against discrimination. If any staff member treats a customer poorly based on their appearance, their background, or any other factor, they will be terminated. No warnings, no second chances. This is not negotiable." The room was silent. This was serious. "Third," Minjun said, and his voice grew warmer, "we are starting a scholarship fund. It will be called the Le Chateau Blanc Hospitality Scholarship. Every year we will provide full scholarships to 5 students from low-income families who want to study hospitality, culinary arts, or restaurant management. We will also offer internships here at the restaurant." Several staff members smiled. This was good news. This was meaningful. "I want this restaurant to be a place of excellence," Minjun said. "Excellent food. Excellent service. But also excellent character. I want customers to leave here feeling not just full but respected, valued, special, every single one of them." Madame Dupont stepped forward. "Mr. Kim has asked me to stay on as general manager. I am honored to do so. I have run this restaurant for 15 years, but I realize now that I allowed certain problems to continue. I ignored complaints about Philippe because he was experienced and good with important customers. That was wrong. I failed in my duty to protect all customers and all staff. I apologize for that. Moving forward, we will do better." The staff applauded. Not loud but sincere. They could feel something changing. "Something important. Are there any questions?" Minjun asked. A young cook raised his hand. "Sir, what about the menu? Will you change the food?" No, Minjun said. The food here is excellent. Madame Dupont has built a wonderful kitchen team. We will keep the quality high, but we might add a few items, make some dishes more accessible, create some options at different price points. The goal is to maintain excellence while being more inclusive. A waitress raised her hand. What about staff wages? Everyone will receive a 5% raise, Minjun said. Effective immediately, and we will review wages again in 6 months. Good work deserves good pay. The staff looked surprised and pleased. A raise was unexpected. Minho raised his hand. Sir, you mentioned scholarships for students. Can current staff apply for educational opportunities too? Minjun smiled. Yes. We will create a program to help staff members who want to continue their education. If you want to study for certifications, take classes, or develop new skills, we will help support that. Details will be announced next week. The meeting continued for another hour. Minjun and Madame Dupont answered questions. They explained the vision. They listened to concerns. Slowly, the staff began to relax. This new owner was not a tyrant. He was not going to destroy what they had built. He was going to make it better. After the meeting, Minho approached Seo-yeon. Mrs. Kim, may I say something? Of course, Seo-yeon said kindly. I'm sorry for what Philippe did to you. I saw it happen. I wanted to say something, but I was afraid. I should have been braver. Seo-yeon touched his arm gently. You were kind to us that night. You served us well. That took courage too. Philippe was your senior colleague. Standing up to him would have been hard. I do not blame you for being afraid. Thank you, Minho said. He felt relieved. I love working here. I was worried everything would change. Things are changing, Seo-yeon said, but change can be good. My husband believes in giving people opportunities. He believes in fairness. You work hard, yes? Yes, ma'am. Very hard. Then you will do well here. Keep learning. Keep growing. And remember what happened with Felipe. Remember that how we treat people matters. It matters more than anything. Minho bowed and walked away. Seo-yeon watched him go. She felt hopeful. This restaurant could become something special, not just because of the food, but because of the values it represented. That evening, Le Chateau Blanc opened for dinner as usual. The staff was nervous but energized. They wore their uniforms with new pride. They greeted customers warmly. Every customer, not just the ones who looked wealthy. A young couple came in wearing casual clothes. They were celebrating a birthday. In the past, Philippe might have judged them, might have made them feel unwelcome. But tonight they were greeted with genuine warmth. They were given a good table. They were treated like they mattered, because they did. An older woman came in alone. She wore a simple coat and carried a worn purse. She said she was celebrating her late husband's birthday by eating at his favorite restaurant. In the past, Philippe might have tried to seat her in a corner, might have rushed her through the meal. But tonight she was given a lovely table by the window. The staff was attentive and kind. When she left, she had tears in her eyes. Not from sadness, but from feeling seen, feeling valued. Word began to spread in Seoul. Le Chateau Blanc had changed. The arrogant waiter was gone. The new owner had a different vision. People started talking about it, posting about it on social media. The restaurant that used to feel intimidating now felt welcoming. The food was still excellent. The atmosphere was still elegant. But now there was warmth too. Humanity. Minjun and Seo-yeon came back to Le Chateau Blanc 1 month after the sale. They did not announce they were coming. They just walked in like regular customers. The host recognized them immediately. She smiled brightly. Mr. and Mrs. Kim, welcome back. Please let me get you a table. They were seated at the same table where they had sat on their anniversary. The same table where Philippe had insulted Seo-yeon. But tonight felt completely different. Minho came to serve them. He was more confident now. He recommended dishes, described the specials with enthusiasm, made them feel special. As they ate, Minjun looked around the restaurant. He saw staff members treating every customer with respect. He saw diners who looked relaxed and happy. He saw Madame Dupont moving through the room, checking on tables, smiling genuinely. This was what he wanted. This was why he bought the restaurant. Do you think Philippe ever realized what he did wrong? Seo-yeon asked quietly. Minjun considered the question. I do not know, maybe not. Some people never learn, but that is not our concern anymore. What matters is that we created change. Real change. Not just firing one person, but transforming an entire culture. Seo-yeon nodded. I hope he finds work somewhere. I hope he learns from this. Min-jun looked at his wife with admiration. Even after everything, she still had compassion for the man who hurt her. That was who she was. Always kind. Always hopeful. Always believing people could be better. You have a good heart, he said. So do you, she replied. You did not buy this restaurant for revenge. You bought it to make sure no one else would ever feel the way I felt that night. That is not revenge. That is justice. That is love. They finished their meal slowly, savoring every bite. When they left, the staff lined up to say goodbye. To thank them. To show their appreciation. Min-jun and Seo-yeon walked out into the night air, holding hands. Behind them, Le Chateau Blanc glowed with warm light. Inside, people of all kinds enjoyed excellent food and genuine hospitality. The restaurant had been transformed, and in a small way, the world was a little bit better. 6 months passed since Min-jun bought Le Chateau Blanc. The restaurant was thriving. Not just surviving, but truly flourishing. Reservations were booked weeks in advance. Reviews were glowing. People praised not just the food, but the atmosphere. The warmth. The way every customer was treated like they mattered. The scholarship fund was announced publicly in the 3rd month. Applications poured in from students all over South Korea. Young people from poor families who dreamed of working in hospitality. Who wanted to be chefs or restaurant managers or sommeliers. The selection committee, which included Madame Dupont, Seo-yeon, and several hospitality professors, reviewed hundreds of applications. They chose 5 students for the first year. 5 deserving young people who would get full scholarships to culinary school, plus paid internships at Le Chateau Blanc. The ceremony to announce the scholarship winners was held at the restaurant on a Sunday afternoon. The 5 students stood nervously in the main dining room. Their families were there too. Parents who had worked factory jobs and cleaning jobs to support their children. Siblings who had sacrificed so their brother or sister could pursue education, everyone dressed in their best clothes. Everyone looked proud and hopeful. Min-jun and Seo-yeon stood at the front of the room. Madame Dupont was beside them. Several news reporters had been invited. This was a good story. A story about second chances and opportunity. Welcome, Min-jun said. Thank you all for coming. Today is a special day. Today we announce the first recipients of the Le Chateau Blanc Hospitality Scholarship. He looked at the 5 students. 3 young women and 2 young men. They were between 18 and 22 years old. They came from different parts of Korea, different backgrounds, but they all shared the same dream. The same hunger to succeed. I started with nothing, Min-jun said. My wife started with nothing. We worked hard. We were lucky. We had opportunities. But we also had each other. We had support. Not everyone has that. These scholarships exist to provide support for young people who have talent and drive but need help. We believe in you. We believe you will do great things. Seo-yeon stepped forward. She held 5 envelopes. Each of you will receive a full scholarship for culinary or hospitality education. You will also have a paid internship here at Le Chateau Blanc, working alongside some of the best chefs and service professionals in Seoul. You will learn. You will grow. And hopefully one day you will help others the way we are helping you. She called each student forward by name. As they received their envelopes, cameras flashed. Parents cried happy tears. The students looked overwhelmed with gratitude and disbelief. This was real. This was happening to them. One student, a young woman named Jiwoo, approached Seo-yeon after the ceremony. Mrs. Kim, may I tell you something? Of course, Seo-yeon said warmly. My father is a janitor. My mother works in a factory. They never had opportunities like this. They told me to get a practical job. To be realistic. But I dreamed of being a chef. I applied for this scholarship, not really believing I would get it. And now, Jiwoo's voice broke. Now I have a chance. A real chance. Thank you. Thank you so much, Seo-yeon hugged the young woman. You earned this. Your application was excellent. Your passion was clear. Work hard. Make the most of this opportunity. And one day, when you are successful, help someone else. That is how we change the world. One person at a time. The ceremony ended. The families took photos. The students talked excitedly about their future. Min-jun watched from the side of the room. He felt satisfied. This was why he bought the restaurant. Not for profit, though it was profitable. Not for prestige, though it brought that too. But for moments like this, for the chance to make a real difference in people's lives. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Min-jun and Seo-yeon sat alone in the empty restaurant. Madame Dupont had gone home. The staff had cleaned everything and departed. The lights were dim. The place was quiet. "Do you ever think about Philippe?" Seo-yeon asked suddenly. Min-jun looked at her. "Sometimes. Why?" "I wonder what happened to him." Where he is now. Min-jun had wondered too. He had asked Ji-woo, his attorney, to keep track. Not to interfere, just to know. He struggled at first, Min-jun said. Word spread about why he was fired. Other high-end restaurants would not hire him. He was unemployed for 2 months. 2 months, Seo-yeon repeated softly. That must have been hard for him. Yes, but then he found work at a small cafe in Hongdae, a neighborhood place. Nothing fancy. He washes dishes mostly, sometimes waits tables. The owner is an older woman who believes in second chances. She hired him despite his reputation. Is he different now? Min-jun shrugged. I do not know. Ji-woo says he keeps his head down, works quietly, does not cause problems. Maybe he learned something. Maybe he is just surviving. Time will tell. Seo-yeon was quiet for a moment. I hope he learned. I hope he became better. Why do you care? Min-jun asked gently. He was cruel to you. Because holding on to anger hurts me, not him. Because I believe people can change. And because, she paused, searching for words, because what happened with him led to all of this. The scholarships. The new policies. The cultural change here. Something good came from something bad. That matters. Min-jun reached for her hand. You are a better person than I am. No, Seo-yeon said firmly. You are the one who took action. Who bought this restaurant? Who created the scholarships? Who made real change happen? I just suggest ideas. You make them real. We are a team, Min-jun said. We always have been. 25 years and counting. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, Seoul sparkled with lights. Cars moved through the streets. People went about their lives. And inside Le Chateau Blanc, 2 people who had started with nothing sat in a restaurant they now owned, reflecting on how far they had come. 3 blocks away, in a small cafe in Hongdae, Philippe finished washing the last dishes of the night. His hands were red from hot water. His back ached from standing all day. His feet hurt. This was nothing like working at Le Chateau Blanc, nothing like the prestige and elegance he once had. The cafe owner, Mrs. Choi, came into the kitchen. She was 65 years old. Tough but fair. She had given Philippe a job when no one else would. Good work today, Philippe. You are improving. Thank you, Mrs. Choi. His voice was humble now, so different from the arrogant tone he once used. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow we have a big Sunday brunch crowd. Philippe removed his apron and washed his hands. He put on his jacket and walked out into the night. The cafe was in a busy neighborhood. Young people everywhere. Students, artists, musicians. People who would never have come to Le Chateau Blanc. People he once would have judged as beneath him. He walked to the subway station. As he waited for his train, he saw an advertisement on the wall. It was a news article about the Le Chateau Blanc scholarship program. There was a photo of Min-jun and Seo-yeon with the 5 scholarship winners. Everyone was smiling. Happy Philippe stared at the photo. At Seo-yeon's face, the woman he had insulted. The woman whose dignity he had tried to diminish. She looked happy. She looked kind. And she was doing something meaningful. Helping young people. Changing lives. Philippe felt something break inside him. Not anger. Not resentment. Something else. Shame. Deep, genuine shame. For months he had been angry about losing his job. Angry at Min-jun for buying the restaurant just to fire him. Angry at the unfairness of it all. But looking at that photo, seeing what Min-jun and Seo-yeon were doing, Philippe finally understood. It was not about him. It had never been about him. It was about creating a better culture. About treating people with respect. About using success to help others. Min-jun had not bought the restaurant for revenge. He bought it to make sure what happened to his wife never happened to anyone else. And he succeeded. Philippe's train arrived. He got on and found a seat. As the train moved through the tunnel, he thought about his life. About the choices he had made. About the person he had been. He had been so proud, so certain he knew who belonged and who did not, so confident in his judgments. And he had been completely wrong. Mrs. Choi, the cafe owner, treated everyone the same. Rich customers, poor customers, students who could barely afford coffee, business people who could buy the whole menu. She treated them all with the same warmth and respect. At first, Philippe thought she was foolish, that she did not understand how the world worked. But slowly he began to see she understood better than he ever had. She understood that every person had value. Every person deserved kindness. He still had a long way to go. He still caught himself making judgments sometimes, looking at someone's clothes or shoes and thinking he knew who they were. But now he stopped himself. He reminded himself of the lesson he had learned the hard way. You cannot know someone's worth by looking at them. You cannot judge a person's value by their appearance. The train reached his stop. Philippe got off and walked to his small apartment. It was nothing like the nice place he used to have. Just one room, a bed, a small kitchen, a bathroom, but it was clean. It was his. And maybe, just maybe, it was a new beginning. 1 year after buying Le Chateau Blanc, Minjun and Seo-yeon returned to the restaurant to celebrate their 26th anniversary. They sat at the same table, the same place where everything had started. Minho, who had been promoted to senior waiter, served them. He was taking evening classes in restaurant management, supported by the restaurant's education program. The first 5 scholarship students were all doing well. One was at the top of her culinary class. Another had won a regional cooking competition. They came to the restaurant regularly for their internships. They were learning, growing, becoming the next generation of hospitality professionals. Do you remember what you felt that night? Minjun asked. When Philippe insulted you, Seo-yeon thought for a moment. I felt small, embarrassed, unworthy, like I did not belong. And now? She smiled. Now I feel grateful. Grateful that moment led to something good. Grateful we could create change. Grateful that other people will not feel the way I felt. Minjun pulled her close. You know what I learned from all of this? What? That you were right all along. About how to live. You never needed expensive things to feel valuable. You never judged people by what they wore or what they owned. You saw people's hearts, their character. That is what matters. That is what I was trying to protect when I bought this restaurant. Not your feelings, though I care about those, but your values. Your way of seeing the world. Because your way is the right way. Seo-yeon hugged her husband tightly. 26 years of marriage. 26 years of partnership. Through poverty and success. Through struggle and triumph. Through moments of hurt and moments of joy. They had stayed together. Stayed true to each other and to their values. They walked to their car hand in hand. Behind them, Le Chateau Blanc glowed with warm light. Inside, people of all backgrounds enjoyed excellent food and genuine hospitality. The restaurant had become more than just a place to eat. It had become a symbol, a reminder that how we treat people matters, that respect and dignity are not luxuries reserved for the wealthy. They are rights that belong to everyone. And somewhere in Seoul, in a small cafe in Hongdae, a man who had learned a hard lesson washed dishes and tried to become better. He still had a long journey ahead, but he was on his way, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters. And what matters is not how much money you have or how important you seem. What matters is how you treat people. Every person, every day, that is the measure of a life well lived.